Widow buys abandoned mansion from a banker for $100. What she finds shocks everyone. Jennifer Miller held her two children's hands tightly as she entered the town hall of Aspen, trembling more from nerves than from the biting July cold that swept through the mountain region. The court officer had given her only 3 days to leave the rented house, and she had nowhere to go with 8-year-old Ethan and 6-year-old Olivia. "Please, Mr. Walter, I need anything that fits my budget," she begged the town hall employee, showing the last $200 she had in her wallet. The grey-haired man adjusted his glasses and flipped through a yellowed folder. His eyes stopped on a specific file that seemed to have been there for years. "Mrs. Jennifer, there's a property here, but I'm not sure if you'll want it." "Anything will do, Mr. Walter. I can't be picky. It's an old mansion in the rural area. The previous owner passed away 2 years ago and left very specific instructions. It's for sale for just $100. Jennifer blinked several times, thinking she had misheard. $100? That can't be right. "Yes, ma'am. Mr. Richard Harrison, who owned the local bank, set this condition in his will. He said he wanted it sold for that amount to a family that truly needed it." The name Richard Harrison echoed in Jennifer's mind like a distant bell. Something familiar, but she couldn't place it in her memory. "But why hasn't anyone bought it yet?" Mr. Walter hesitated, nervously shuffling the papers. "Well, Mrs. Jennifer, the townspeople have their superstitions. They say the house holds bad memories. Mr. Richard was a complicated person, rich but lonely, never married, never had any known children." "Bad memories?" "Oh, small-town nonsense, ma'am. The important thing is it has 4 bedrooms, a library, a large living room. It just needs some cleaning and a few repairs." Ethan tugged on his mother's coat. "Mom, can I see the house?" "Of course, my love. Mr. Walter, can we visit today? I can give you the keys right now if you'd like, but I should warn you, the road is rough because of the frost, and the power's been cut off for a long time. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Jennifer signed the papers with trembling hands, unable to believe she finally had a roof for her children. The address indicated a property 15 kilometers from the town center, on a road that wound through pine trees and abandoned fields. "Mom, look how it's snowing." Olivia pointed to the first flakes beginning to fall as they left the town hall. It was rare for it to snow in Aspen, but that July was exceptionally cold. Jennifer pulled her daughter's hat down, remembering how she herself had loved snow as a child. But where? That memory also seemed hazy. They took a bus as far as the urban line went, then walked along the dirt road. With each step, the landscape grew more isolated. Scattered houses gave way to empty lots and dense woods. "Is it far, Mommy?" Ethan complained after half an hour of walking. "It must be close now, son. Mr. Walter said we'd see a sign at the entrance." When they finally spotted the wrought iron gate, Jennifer felt a shiver that wasn't just from the cold. The sign read, "Harrison Property," in letters worn by time. The mansion appeared at the end of a driveway, lined with leafless trees. It was imposing, 2 stories high, with columns at the entrance and large windows that looked like empty eyes. The snow was beginning to cover the roof and the abandoned gardens. "Wow, Mom, it's a castle!" Olivia clapped her hands excitedly. "It is big," Ethan agreed, but with less enthusiasm. Jennifer inserted the old key into the heavy lock. The door creaked as it opened, revealing an entry hall with high ceilings and a wooden staircase leading to the 2nd floor. What impressed her most was that the house wasn't empty. Furniture covered with white sheets spread through the rooms like silent ghosts. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, dusty but intact. "Why did the owner leave everything here?" asked Ethan. "I don't know, son. Maybe he left in a hurry." They walked through the main room, discovering leather sofas, a dining table for 12 people, and bookshelves filled with books. Everything seemed preserved in time, just covered by the dust of years. In the kitchen, they found good quality utensils and a wood-burning stove that seemed well maintained. Jennifer opened some drawers and was surprised to find silverware and fine china. "Who leaves things like this behind?" she murmured to herself. "Mom, there's an envelope here on the table." Olivia pointed to a yellowed envelope that was in the center of the dining table, as if it had been left on purpose. Jennifer picked up the envelope carefully. It had no sender, just a name handwritten on the front, Mary Elizabeth. Her heart raced. Mary Elizabeth was her maiden name, the name she hadn't used in over 10 years since she married John Miller. "How could someone know my maiden name?" she whispered, looking around as if expecting to see someone watching. She opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was an old black-and-white photo. It showed a girl of about 4 years old, playing in the garden of the very mansion where they now stood. The girl wore a white dress and smiled at the camera. Jennifer recognized the dress immediately. It was the same one she wore in her only childhood photo, the only memory she had from before going to the orphanage. "Mom, who is that girl?" Ethan peeked at the photo over her shoulder. I think it's me," Jennifer stammered, feeling her legs go weak. "What do you mean, Mom? Did you live here?" "I don't know, son. I don't remember anything before age 5. She turned the photo over and found a date. Mary Elizabeth, 4 years old, 1989, and a signature she couldn't decipher. The evening chill was increasing, and snow was beginning to accumulate outside. Jennifer decided to explore the house to better understand the situation before dark. On the second floor, they found 4 bedrooms. The master bedroom still had men's clothes in the closet, all large sizes and business cuts. On the dresser, a hairbrush with grey strands still stuck to it. "It looks like the owner left yesterday," commented Ethan. The second bedroom was empty, but the third made Jennifer freeze in the doorway. It was clearly a child's bedroom, but preserved like a museum. It had a small bed with blue sheets, old toys organized on the shelves, and animal pictures on the walls. "Mom, look!" Olivia ran to a dollhouse that occupied one corner of the room. It was identical to the mansion they were in, down to the smallest details. Even the windows were the same. "How strange," Jennifer murmured, examining the toys. They were from the 1980s and 1990s, expensive for their time. In the 4th bedroom, they found what appeared to be an office. An antique desk was covered with papers, and the walls were lined with diplomas and bank certificates in the name of Richard Harrison. Jennifer approached the desk and began examining the documents. They were bank statements, business correspondence, and photos. Many photos. Photos of a girl growing up, first day of school, graduations, wedding. All had notes on the back with dates and locations. They were all of her. Mary Elizabeth, first day at St. Joseph's Orphanage, 1990. Mary Elizabeth, high school graduation, 2003. Mary Elizabeth, marriage to John Miller, 2015. Jennifer's hands trembled as she flipped through the images. Someone had documented her entire life, even though she hadn't known. "Mom, are you okay?" Ethan touched her arm, worried. "Son, I think we need to find out who this Richard Harrison was." They continued exploring the office and found a locked drawer. After searching, they found the key in a small box on the bookshelf. Inside the drawer was a thick file with the name Mary Elizabeth, sister, written on the cover. Sister. Jennifer sat down heavily in the office chair, trying to process the information. She had a brother. How was that possible? She opened the file with trembling hands. The first page was her birth certificate, but with information she had never seen before. Father's name, Anthony Harrison, mother's name, Carmen Johnson Harrison, and in the remarks section it said, brother Richard Harrison, born in 1975. Richard was 3 years older than her. The following pages told a story she had never known. Her parents had been landowners in the region, but they faced financial difficulties when she was very young. A car accident took both of them when she was 4 years old. Richard, then 7 years old, was sent to wealthy relatives in New York. She, being too young, went to St. Joseph's Orphanage because the same relatives didn't want to take in 2 children. "Did he look for me?" she whispered, reading a handwritten letter dated 2005. "Mary Elizabeth, my dear sister, I've been trying to find you for years. I hired detectives, checked records, but you disappeared from the system when you left the orphanage. I hope you are well, happy, and safe. One day I will find you and explain why I couldn't come for you sooner. Your loving brother, Richard." There were dozens of similar letters, all unsent, written over 15 years. The last letter was from 2 years ago. Mary, I found out you got married and have children. I'm happy you found a family. I know where you live, but I don't have the courage to show up and turn your life upside down. You built something beautiful without me, but I want to make sure you never go without. I'm arranging everything so that if you ever need it, you'll find your way here. This house is rightfully yours. It always has been. Forgive me for not being brave enough to introduce myself. Richard. Mommy, why are you crying? Olivia climbed onto her lap. It's because I found out I had a brother, honey. A brother who looked after me even when I didn't know it. Where is he now? Jennifer didn't know how to answer. She kept digging through the papers and found medical documents. Richard had battled a serious illness in his final years. The reports indicated that he knew he didn't have much time left. She also found bank statements that left her shocked. Richard had been depositing money into an account in her name for years, but she had never known about this account's existence. How is this possible? She asked aloud. She continued searching and found a folder labeled Plan for Mary. Inside was a document detailing how he had arranged everything: the sale of the house for a symbolic price, the city employee instructed on when to offer the property, the bank account for emergencies. Richard had planned every detail so she would find the house at the exact moment she needed it most. The snow outside was getting heavier, and it was starting to get dark. Jennifer knew they needed to settle in for the night, but her mind was buzzing with discoveries. Kids, let's see if we can light the wood stove and warm something up. In the kitchen, they found a pantry still stocked with non-perishable food. Beans, rice, pasta, canned goods, everything within the expiration date, as if someone had restocked it recently. Mom, there's even chocolate here. Ethan showed her a still-sealed bar. While they cooked a simple dinner, Jennifer tried to organize her thoughts. Richard had been the brother she never knew she had, but who had looked after her from afar her entire life. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, feel free to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. After dinner, they settled in the main room with blankets they found in a closet. The fireplace worked perfectly, and soon a cozy fire warmed the space. Mom, tell us more about Uncle Richard, asked Olivia, snuggled beside her. Well, dear, it seems he was a very special person. Even without knowing me well, he never forgot about me. Why didn't he come to visit you? Jennifer thought about her daughter's question. From the letters, Richard seemed to have been afraid of disrupting the life she had built. Or perhaps he felt guilty that she had gone to the orphanage while he was raised by wealthy relatives. Sometimes, son, people think it's better to love from a distance than risk causing trouble. That night, Jennifer slept in the master bedroom, using the clean sheets she found in the closet. The children stayed in the nursery, enchanted by the old toys. But she couldn't sleep well. Her mind kept returning to the letters and photos. How had Richard managed to follow her life so closely without her knowing? The next morning, while making coffee in the kitchen, she heard voices outside. Through the window, she saw 3 people approaching the house, 2 women and an older man. She went out to greet them on the porch. Good morning. Can I help you? The older woman, with graying hair and elegant clothes, looked her up and down with a suspicious expression. We're neighbors. We heard someone bought Richard's house. We came to see who was brave enough to live here. Brave? Oh dear, said the other younger woman. Don't you know the story of this house? What story? The man stepped forward. Richard Harrison wasn't well liked in town. Rich but arrogant. When he left many people angry with him. Angry why? He shut down the bank and fired half the town. Many people lost their jobs and homes, explained the older woman. Jennifer felt a knot in her stomach. Could it be that her brother was a bad person? But did you know him personally? No is a strong word, said the younger woman. He was very private, never mixed with anyone, lived alone in this huge house, no family, no friends. They say he was obsessive, added the man. Always with papers, always investigating people, had a control fixation. Jennifer remembered the photos and letters. Perhaps what they called obsession was just a brother trying to care for the only family he had. Well, I bought the house and plan to live here with my children. Be careful, dear. The older woman lowered her voice. This house brings bad luck. Ask anyone in town. After the neighbors left, Jennifer felt unsettled. She decided to go back to Richard's office to look for more information. She found a second locked drawer she hadn't noticed the day before. This time the key was hidden inside a hollow book on the shelf. The drawer contained more detailed bank documents. She realized that Richard hadn't simply closed the bank. He had discovered that the main manager was embezzling money from the customers and decided to investigate on his own. There were handwritten reports, photographs of documents, and even recordings on old cassette tapes. Richard had spent months gathering evidence. When he finally reported the scheme, the bank was sealed by the authorities. Richard lost his own fortune in the process, but ensured that the customers were reimbursed. So he wasn't a villain, murmured Jennifer. He was a hero. She kept reading and discovered that Richard had used his last savings to pay extra severance for the laid-off employees. He himself was left with almost nothing, keeping only the family home. The neighbors didn't know the truth. To them, Richard was just the bank owner who caused the closure and the layoffs. At that moment, Ethan came running down the stairs. "Mom, there's a lady at the door who wants to talk to you." Jennifer went down and found a black woman about 60 years old, well-dressed, but with a gentle expression. "Good morning, Mom. My name is Dorothy Johnson. I was Mr. Richard's housekeeper for 15 years. Please, come in. Mrs. Dorothy, isn't it?" "Yes, Mum. I came as soon as I heard someone had bought the house. I wanted to introduce myself and, well, tell you a few things about the boss." They sat in the living room and Dorothy looked around nostalgically. 15 years working here. Mr. Richard was a good man, Ma'am. Very misunderstood, but good. The neighbors speak ill of him. Oh, people don't know anything. They only see the surface. Mr. Richard helped me raise my 3 children. Paid for private school for all of them, college for the oldest. Never asked for anything in return. Dorothy got up and went to the bookshelf, pulling out a photo album hidden behind the books. "Look here, Ma'am. These are pictures I took of him over the years." The photos showed Richard in situations Jennifer didn't expect, playing with Dorothy's children, helping with repairs on modest homes, visiting the elderly at the city nursing home. He did volunteer work. Every weekend, Ma'am, but he didn't want anyone to know. He said charity doesn't need an audience. "Dorothy, can I ask you a personal question? Did Richard ever mention a sister?" The woman's face lit up. "You, the girl Mary Elizabeth. Good Lord, how he talked about you." "He talked about me?" "Every day, Ma'am. He showed the pictures he managed to get from afar, told where you were studying, working. When he found out you had gotten married, he was so happy he gave everyone at the bank time off." Jennifer felt her eyes well up. "But why did he never look for me?" "Oh, Ma'am, he was dying to, but he was afraid. He said you seemed happy with the life you built, and that he didn't want to be a problem. He thought he might seem crazy, showing up after so many years." "Did he know I was going through hard times?" "Yes, Ma'am, he did. He hired people to keep a discreet eye out in case you needed help. When your husband got sick, it was he who paid for the private treatments." Jennifer stood up abruptly. "What do you mean?" John didn't know, Ma'am. Mr. Richard had it paid directly to the hospital, as if it were a government program. You never knew it was him." Jennifer's world turned upside down. John had spent 2 years undergoing cancer treatment, and they had always wondered how they got such good care with the basic health plan they had. "Richard paid for everything?" "Everything, Ma'am. And when Mr. John passed, he really wanted to reach out to comfort you, but I told him to wait, that you needed time to grieve." "And then he too?" "Yes, Ma'am. 3 months after your husband, as if he couldn't bear carrying the weight of taking care of everyone alone anymore." Dorothy opened her purse and took out a sealed letter. "He asked me to give this to you when you arrived here. He knew sooner or later you would come." Jennifer took the letter with trembling hands. It was addressed to "My dear sister, Mary Elizabeth." "May I read it now?" "Of course, Ma'am. I'll make some coffee in the meantime." Jennifer opened the letter and recognized the handwriting she had seen in the other documents. "My dear sister, if you're reading this letter, it means my plan worked and you found your way back home. This was always your home, Mary. Our parents built it envisioning a large and happy family. I know you must be confused and perhaps even angry with me for never having appeared in your life. The truth is, I tried to find you when we were still children, but the relatives who raised me said it would be better to let you live your life. They thought it would be traumatic to bring you back after years at the orphanage. When I finally managed to locate you, you were already an adult and seemed so happy with John and the children that I didn't have the heart to interfere. You built a beautiful family, something I never managed to do. But I never stopped loving you or caring for you, even from afar. Every achievement of yours was my joy. Every difficulty of yours was my concern. The account at the central bank in your name has enough for you to live comfortably for the coming years. The documents are in the safe behind the painting in the library. The combination is 2501, your birth date. Forgive me for being cowardly. Forgive me for not fighting harder to bring you back when we were children. But know that you were never alone. Even without knowing, you always had a brother who loved you unconditionally. Take good care of your children in this house. Fill it with laughter and love as our parents did when we were little. With all the love in the world, your brother Richard P.S. In the library, there's a red box on the third shelf. Inside are all your baby pictures and some toys that survived the accident. I thought you might like to have these to show your children. Jennifer cried, as she hadn't cried in years. Dorothy returned with the coffee and sat beside her, putting an arm around her shoulders. He was a special man, ma'am. Why do people in town speak so poorly of him? Because he didn't defend himself. When they closed the bank because of the manager's theft, Mr. Richard lost everything too. But he preferred to stay quiet and let people think what they wanted rather than expose the employees who were involved. He said they had families to support and were already paying the price by losing their jobs. Dorothy stood up to leave. Mom, if you need anything, you can find me. I live in the blue house on Flower Street, number 45. Mr. Richard left me some money to take care of you if necessary. Dorothy, wouldn't you like to keep working here? Not as a maid, but as family? The woman's face lit up. It would be an honor, Ma'am. After Dorothy left, Jennifer went to the library to look for the safe. She found it exactly where Richard had indicated, behind a family painting she hadn't noticed before. The combination worked on the first try, 2501. Inside the safe were more bank documents, property deeds for various houses in town, which Richard apparently rented at low prices to needy families, and a blue folder with "For Mary" written on the cover. The folder contained certificates, photos of her parents, and even an old life insurance policy from her parents that had never been claimed. The amount, adjusted for time, was enough to secure the children's future. Mom! Ethan came running down the stairs again. There are more people at the door. This time there were two people, a man in a suit and a younger woman, both with serious expressions. Mrs. Miller, I'm attorney Michael Davis, and this is my assistant, Dr. Pamela. We represent the estate of Mr. Richard Harrison. Jennifer's heart raced. Could there be some legal problem with the house purchase? Please come in. They sat in the living room, and the lawyer opened a document folder. Mrs. Miller, there are some questions about the sale of this property that we need to clarify. Is there a problem? Well, the sale for $100 was very irregular. We investigated and discovered that the City Hall employee, Mr. Walter, received specific instructions from Mr. Richard 2 years ago. He was to wait for a woman named Mary Elizabeth Miller who would appear in a time of need. And is that illegal? Not exactly illegal, but highly irregular. We also discovered that you are the sister of the late Richard Harrison, which completely changes the situation. The assistant stepped forward. By law, you would already be entitled to the inheritance as the only living relative. Mr. Richard didn't need to create this whole scheme. So what does this mean? It means you didn't need to buy the house, explained the lawyer. It was already yours by right. Besides, there are other properties and investments in Mr. Richard's name that are also yours. Jennifer felt dizzy. Other properties? Yes, ma'am. 3 houses in the city, a country house in the countryside, and investments worth approximately $2 million. $2 million? Mr. Richard was much richer than he appeared. He lived simply but invested wisely. Most of the money comes from investments he made over 20 years. The assistant continued. We also found a letter from him addressed to the lawyers, explaining the whole situation. He knew about your rights, but he wanted you to find the house by chance at the right time. He believed it would be less traumatic that way. He planned everything, down to the smallest details. He even left instructions so that, after you settled in, you would receive information about the rest of the inheritance gradually, to avoid shock. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The lawyer handed a folder to Jennifer. Here are all the documents. You'll need to sign some papers to formalize the transfer of the assets, but there's no rush. Mr. Richard also left a checking account in your name with $50,000 for immediate expenses. After the lawyers left, Jennifer was alone with the children, trying to process everything that was happening. In less than a week, she had gone from desperate and homeless to the heir of a considerable fortune. "Mom, are we rich now?" asked Ethan with typical childlike curiosity. "It seems so, son. Your Uncle Richard took very good care of us, even without knowing us." "Oh, but he knew us. From a distance, but he knew." That afternoon, while the children played in the snow-covered garden, Jennifer decided to explore the house further. She wanted to understand more about the brother she had never met. In the attic, she found more trunks with family belongings, old clothes, photo albums of their parents, toys from when they were children. One specific trunk had a label, "Mary's Room, Preserved." Inside were all her toys from when she was little, her little clothes, even a teddy bear she vaguely remembered loving. There was also a notebook with Richard's notes about her childhood. Mary loved playing in the snow. She always made snowmen in the backyard. Mary was afraid of thunder. Mom would sing to calm her down. Mary said she wanted to be a teacher when she grew up. It was as if Richard had kept all the memories of her that he could preserve. At the end of the notebook, there was a recent entry. "I discovered that Mary did become a teacher after all. I always knew she would fulfill her dream. I'm proud of the strong woman she became." Jennifer didn't know that Richard had found out about her profession. How had he managed to get this information over the years without her knowing? She came down from the attic carrying the teddy bear and found the children in the kitchen eating cookies that Dorothy had brought earlier. "Look what I found," she showed the teddy bear. "Was it yours when you were little?" Olivia took the toy carefully. "It was, and now it can be yours if you want." That night after dinner, Jennifer put the children to bed and stayed alone in the library, flipping through Richard's books. Many had notes in the margins, thoughts about management, economics, but also personal reflections. In a biography about separated siblings, he had written in the margin, "How to find someone without scaring her. How to explain years of silence." In a cake recipe in an old magazine, there was a note. "Mary liked to help her mother in the kitchen. I wonder if she still likes to cook." It was touching to see how Richard tried to connect with her through small observations and memories. The next morning, Jennifer decided to go to town to do some shopping and take the opportunity to get to know the place where she would live better. She took the children, and they walked to the center. The reception was cold. People looked at her with curiosity and whispered when she passed. In a bakery, the clerk was polite but distant. "You're the woman who bought Richard's house, right?" "I am." "Brave. No one lasted more than a week in that house before you." "What do you mean?" "Oh, other people tried to rent or buy over the years, but something strange always happened, and they left." "What kind of strange things?" "Strange noises, objects that moved, a feeling that someone was watching." Jennifer frowned. She hadn't noticed any of that. "Did you feel anything different?" the woman asked with morbid curiosity. "No, nothing. The house is very welcoming." The woman seemed disappointed. At the post office, Jennifer found several letters addressed to Richard that were never delivered. The mailman explained that he stopped trying to deliver when he found out he had left. "Can I take the letters? I'm his sister." "Of course, Ma'am. Sorry, I didn't know Mr. Richard had family." The letters were from various people. Thanks for help received, invitations to charity events, even love letters from a woman named Helen. Jennifer became curious about Helen. Who was this woman who wrote love letters to her brother? Back at the house, she found Dorothy organizing the kitchen. "Dorothy, do you know a woman named Helen who sent letters to Richard?" Dorothy's face lit up. "Miss Helen, retired teacher. She and Mr. Richard dated for about 2 years, but she couldn't stand his secrecy." "What do you mean?" "Mr. Richard didn't like to appear in public. Miss Helen wanted a normal relationship, go to the movies, have dinner at a restaurant, introduce him to her family. But he always made excuses." "Why?" "I think he was ashamed of the reputation he had in town. Thought it would harm her image." "Where does she live?" "On Hydrangea Lane, yellow house with a white gate. A very elegant lady, must be about 60 years old." Jennifer decided to look for Helen. Maybe she could tell her more about Richard. The house was indeed yellow with a white gate, well kept and with a flower garden. Jennifer knocked on the door with some anxiety. The woman who answered was elegant, with well-cut grey hair and good quality clothes. Her eyes were blue and expressive. "Can I help you?" "I'm Jennifer, Richard Harrison's sister. I'd like to talk to you about him." Helen's face changed completely, from formal to emotional. "My God, you're Mary Elizabeth. Come in, please." Helen led her to a comfortable room decorated with plants and delicate paintings. "Richard talked so much about you. He said you were a teacher, just like me. You dated." "For 2.5 years, the best years of my life, to be honest." Helen got up and went to get a box from a shelf. "Look, I kept all the photos we took together." The photos showed Richard smiling in a way Jennifer had never seen in other pictures. He looked relaxed, happy. "Why did you break up?" Helen sighed. "Richard was obsessed with privacy. He never wanted to be seen with me in public. He said it would harm my reputation because people in town didn't like him." "But did you love him?" "I did. Richard was the kindest and most generous man I ever knew. I knew about all his good deeds, the volunteer work, how he helped people quietly." "Then why?" "Because I wanted a normal relationship. I wanted to hold hands in the square, have lunch together at the restaurant, introduce him to my family. But he refused." Helen showed more photos, all taken at home or in isolated places. "In our last argument, he confessed he was afraid I would find out what really happened at the bank and be disgusted by him." "But did you know?" "Of course I knew. I knew he had sacrificed everything to protect the clients and expose the corruption scheme, but he didn't believe anyone could see him as a hero instead of a villain." Helen took Jennifer's hand. "Mary, your brother was a wonderful man destroyed by guilt. Guilt over you going to the orphanage, guilt over not fighting harder to get you back when you were kids, guilt over losing the family business in the bank scandal." "Did he talk about me?" "Every day. He showed your photos, told me what he found out about your life. When your children were born, he cried with happiness. He said he wanted to be the best uncle in the world, even if from afar." "Why didn't you get back together?" "I tried. I sent letters for 2 years after we broke up. He never replied, but I found out later he kept them all. I think he was afraid of hurting me." Helen got up and went to get something from the bedroom. "Mary, Richard gave me this a month before he passed. He said if you ever showed up, I should give it to you." It was a small blue velvet box with a ring inside, a delicate ring with a blue stone that shone like a star. "It was our mother's," Helen explained. "Richard said he kept it all these years, waiting for the right time to give it to you." Jennifer slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "Helen, would you like to have dinner with us tonight? At the house?" "I'd love to, but I don't know if I should." "Please. I think Richard would want you to meet his children, the nieces and nephews he loved so much." Helen accepted the invitation, and that evening they prepared a special dinner together. Dorothy also joined them, and for the first time since arriving at the house, Jennifer felt like she was having a family reunion. Helen told funny stories about Richard, showing a side of him no one else knew. Ethan and Olivia were delighted with the stories. "Uncle Richard liked doing magic tricks," Helen said. "Once he made a coin appear from my ear." "He knew how to do magic?" Olivia clapped her hands. "Yes, he did. He said he learned it to impress you when he would meet you. He practiced every week." Jennifer felt her heart tighten. Richard had prepared for years for a meeting that never happened. After dinner, Helen helped put the children to bed. Later, the three women stayed up talking in the living room until late. "Jennifer," Helen said, "can I ask you a favor?" "Of course." "Let me help you fix up this house? Richard always dreamed of seeing it full of life and happiness. It would be an honor for me to help make his dream come true." "Helen, do you want to live here with us? This house is too big for me and the children and, well, I'd like to have more family around." Helen began to cry. "You would do that for me?" "No, Helen, I would do it for us. I think Richard wanted us to form a family, even if not in the traditional way." Dorothy also got emotional. "It'll be good to have this house full of people again. Mr. Richard would be very happy." In the following days, Helen and Dorothy helped Jennifer reorganize the house. They discovered that Richard had left entire rooms preserved, waiting for the family's arrival. Helen's room was already semi-prepared, with delicate feminine furniture that seemed specially chosen for her. "How did he know?" Helen asked, admiring the decor. "Dorothy, did Richard know Helen was going to live here?" "Yes, ma'am. He said that one day you would find Miss Helen and that you would realize you belonged to the same family. He chose the furniture for this room thinking of her." It was impressive how Richard had planned every detail, anticipating even relationships that didn't exist yet. A week later, while organizing the library, Helen found an envelope hidden inside a poetry book. "Jennifer, look at this. It has your name and mine." The envelope contained a letter addressed to Mary and Helen, my two favorite women. "If you're reading this together, it means my last plan worked. Helen, forgive me for being too cowardly to fight for our love. Mary, forgive me for not having the courage to introduce myself while I was alive. But perhaps this is the right way for things to happen. You two are amazing women who deserve to have each other as family. Helen, take care of my sister like you took care of me. Mary, let Helen be the aunt your children deserve to have. This house was built to shelter a large, happy family. Now finally, it will fulfill its purpose. With all my love, Richard P.S. Helen, in the garden there's a flower bed I could never make bloom. It was meant for yellow roses, your favorite flowers. Maybe you can make the magic happen." Helen rushed to the window and looked at the garden. There was indeed an abandoned heart-shaped flower bed. "I'll plant the roses tomorrow," she said with tears in her eyes. That night Jennifer reflected on how life had changed in 2 weeks. She had arrived at the house desperate and without prospects, and now she had an entire family. Dorothy as the children's grandmother, Helen as the aunt, and the memory of Richard as the brother who always looked after her. She also thought about the impact Richard had on the town, even without people knowing. She decided it was time to tell the community the truth about him. She sought out the local church priest and told him the whole story. The priest was impressed and proposed holding a mass in honor of Richard, revealing to the town who he really was. "Father, I don't want it to be something grand. Richard didn't like to be in the spotlight, but I think people deserve to know the truth." "I completely agree, my child. Let's do something simple but meaningful." The Mass was scheduled for the following Sunday. Jennifer, Helen, and Dorothy spent the week preparing an exhibition about Richard's good deeds. Photos of volunteer projects, thank you letters from people he helped, documents proving how he protected the bank's clients. On Sunday, the church was full. Jennifer got nervous when she realized almost the entire town was present, including many faces she recognized as hostile. The priest began the Mass by talking about hasty judgments and how sometimes the people who do the most good are the least understood. Then he invited Jennifer to speak. "My name is Mary Elizabeth, but you know me as Jennifer Miller. I am Richard Harrison's sister." A murmur went through the church. No one knew Richard had family. "I came to tell the truth about my brother because I discovered he was very misunderstood by this town." Jennifer told the whole story, the separated childhood, how Richard investigated the corruption scheme at the bank, how he sacrificed his own fortune to protect the clients, and how he dedicated his life to quietly helping people. "Richard didn't close the bank to harm you. He discovered someone was stealing your money and did the only right thing, reported it, even knowing he would lose everything." She showed photos of volunteer work, read some thank you letters, and explained how Richard had funded home repairs, medical treatments, and education for underprivileged children for years. My brother lived as if he were guilty of something, when in reality he was a hero. He died alone because he thought he didn't deserve love or friendship after what happened at the bank. When she finished speaking, the church was in absolute silence. Then slowly a woman stood up. "I am Mrs. Margaret. Richard paid for my husband's surgery 5 years ago. We never knew who had done that." Another person stood up. "I'm John Charles. Richard repaired my house when the roof collapsed. He left the money in the building supply store account and said it was a city program." One after another, townspeople stood up to tell how Richard had anonymously helped them over the years. An elderly man approached the altar. "I'm Anthony, the pharmacy owner. For 10 years, Richard paid for medications for at least 20 needy families. He always had the money deposited overnight, with a note saying it was to help those in need." A teacher spoke up. "Richard funded the renovation of the rural school. When we asked who had donated the money, he insisted it remain anonymous." By the end of the service, nearly half the congregation had stood up to share some story of how Richard had helped them. Jennifer realized her brother had touched far more lives than she had imagined. After the service, several people approached to apologize and to thank her. "Mrs. Mary," said the bakery owner, "I spoke ill of your brother for years. I didn't know. Forgive my ignorance." "Richard once told me that true charity has no audience," Jennifer replied. "He didn't want you to know because he believed doing good for recognition isn't truly doing good." In the following weeks, the town's attitude toward the family changed completely. People began greeting Jennifer on the street, the children made friends at school, and Helen was invited to give private lessons. Dorothy organized a women's group to care for the cemetery, especially Richard's grave, which now received fresh flowers every week. "Mrs. Miller," Dorothy said one day, "Mr. Richard is resting in peace now. The town finally knows who he really was." Jennifer visited her brother's grave every Sunday with the children. They brought flowers from the house garden and told him about their week. "Uncle Richard," Olivia said during one of these visits, "Mom planted yellow roses in your flower bed. It turned out beautiful, just like you wanted." "And I learned to do card tricks," added Ethan. "Aunt Helen is teaching me." Jennifer smiled, listening to the children talk to the uncle they had never met personally, but who had been a constant presence in their lives through silent love. 3 months after arriving at the house, Jennifer received an unexpected visit. It was a young woman, about 30 years old, well-dressed and with a professional air. "Mrs. Miller, my name is Dr. Beatrice Harrison. I'm a private investigator. Please come in. Ma'am, I was hired by Mr. Richard 2 years ago for a very specific job." "What kind of job?" "He wanted me to find other relatives of the Harrison family who might be scattered across the country." Jennifer felt her heart race. "Did you find anyone?" "Yes, ma'am. I found 3 people. A second cousin in Chicago, a great aunt in Miami, and, well, this is the most interesting part." The investigator opened a folder. "I found a first cousin, daughter of your father's brother. She was adopted as a baby and never knew about her biological family." "Where is she?" "Nearby in Boulder. Her name is Carmen Harrison Johnson. She's a pediatrician and has 2 daughters. Jennifer could hardly believe it. More family. "Did Richard know about this?" "He did. He asked me to wait until you were settled in the house to make contact. He wanted you to have time to process everything before meeting more relatives." "Does Carmen know about us?" "Not yet. Mr. Richard left instructions for me to only approach her after you gave permission." Jennifer thought for a moment. The idea of having more family was exciting, but also scary. Would she want to meet us? According to my research, she always wondered about her biological family. She never searched because she was afraid of hurting her adoptive parents, but they have passed away. Then let's reach out to her. The investigator smiled. Mr. Richard hoped you would say that. He left a letter for Carmen, too, explaining the whole situation. A week later, Carmen came to visit them. She was a cheerful woman in her 40s with twin teenage daughters. The physical resemblance to Jennifer was striking. "I can't believe I have family," were Carmen's first words as she hugged Jennifer. Carmen's daughters, Anna and Clara, were immediately charmed by Ethan and Olivia, the house filled with laughter and conversation. Richard left a letter for me too. Carmen showed an envelope. He explained the whole family history and said that if I was reading it, it meant you were already settled and ready for more changes. Helen prepared a special lunch to welcome the new family. Dorothy made sure to tell stories about Richard and how he had planned every detail of this reunion. Dr. Richard always said that family isn't just who you're born with, but who you choose to stay with, said Dorothy. Carmen was moved when she learned the full story. I always felt something was missing in my life. Now I understand what it was. You all. During lunch, the children played together as if they had been sisters for years. Carmen and Jennifer discovered they had very similar personalities and tastes. Carmen, said Jennifer, would you and the girls like to spend a few days here? The house has enough rooms. I would love to, but I don't want to impose. It's no trouble. Richard built this house to bring family together. I think that's what he would have wanted. Carmen ended up staying for a whole week. During that time, the two sisters talked for hours about their lives, dreams, and experiences. Jennifer, can I tell you something? Said Carmen one evening as they watched the children playing in the garden. Of course, I always wanted to have sisters. I grew up as an only child and always envied friends who had siblings. And I always felt someone was missing in my life. Now I know it was you all. Richard, you, Helen, Dorothy. This family he brought together in such a special way. Carmen decided to move to Aspen to be near the family. As a pediatrician, she easily found a job at the town hospital. Anna and Clara, what do you think about living near your cousins? She asked her daughters. Mom, that would be awesome, they replied in unison. 6 months after Jennifer arrived at the house, the family was complete. Jennifer and her children, Helen as the aunt, Dorothy as the grandmother, Carmen and her daughters as close cousins. Richard had achieved his ultimate goal, bringing together a loving family in the house his parents built decades ago. One night, while organizing family photos on a living room shelf, Helen found one last letter from Richard hidden behind a picture frame. Jennifer, there's another letter here. This one was addressed to my complete family. If you're all reading this together, it means I managed to fulfill my life's dream, bringing our family together. I know it must seem strange to have a relative who organized your lives from afar, but I hope you understand it was done with great love. Each of you represents an important part of what it means to be family. Jennifer, the strength and determination. Helen, the kindness and wisdom. Dorothy, the loyalty and care. Carmen, the joy and generosity. And the children, the hope and the future. This house was empty for a long time. Now, finally, it's full of what it always needed: love, laughter, conversations, and the certainty that no one is alone in the world. Take care of each other. Keep the family traditions, and remember that sometimes the family we choose is as important as the one we're born into. All my love, Richard P.S. In the backyard under the old tree, I buried a time capsule with photos and letters from all of us when we were children. One day, when the children grow up, you can open it together and tell stories about how our family came together. The following Sunday, they organized a party in the garden to celebrate the first year of the reunited family. They invited friends from town, neighbors who now admired them, and even the priest who had helped tell the truth about Richard. During the party, Ethan found the time capsule buried under the tree, exactly where Richard had indicated. They opened the capsule all together. Inside were photos of Jennifer and Richard's parents, letters they wrote as children, old toys, and a map of the property drawn by Richard when he was 10, showing where he wanted to build a treehouse to play with his sister. "Can we build the treehouse?" asked Olivia. "Of course we can," replied Jennifer. "I think Uncle Richard would be very happy." The children clapped excitedly, and the adults started planning the project. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Jennifer stayed alone on the porch, looking at the stars. She thought about how her life had completely changed in a year. She had arrived at the house desperate, without money and without prospects. Now she had a large, loving family, financial security, and the certainty that she would never be alone again. But most of all, she was certain that true love always finds a way to show itself, even when it seems impossible. Richard never managed to say, "I love you" to her in person, but he said it in every other possible way. By taking care of her from a distance, protecting her family, securing her future, and bringing special people around her. "Thank you, brother," she whispered to the stars. For everything. A gentle breeze rustled the trees, and Jennifer felt as if Richard were there, smiling to see that his plan had worked perfectly. The house was finally complete, filled with the love and happiness it was always meant to hold. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this story and where you're listening from. If you have something to share with us, leave it in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe Richard made the right decisions in taking care of his sister from a distance? We'd love to read your opinion. Thank you so much for your company. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories.